San Francisco 49ers general manager John Lynch just got done speaking to local media in regards to all the rumors that have been swirling around regarding Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Brandon Aiyuk, and the list goes on and on. What we are going to do is react. Was there what was there to take away from what John Lynch had to say at this press conference? And did it calm us down at all? Or did it create more concerns? Let's talk about it right now after this. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. I see tinfoil hat season in the chat. So is it time? Do we got to bust out the tinfoil hat to work our way through all the press conference vibes and everything that we heard from? Also, if you didn't know, uh, the Jets and Packers finally have agreed to a trade to send Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. He is no longer going to be playing for the Green Bay Packers. Woohoo! It finally happened. So that was one thing that popped off right before we hopped on, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about John Lynch, his comments from the pre-draft press conference. No Kyle Shanahan in attendance, but that was to be expected. But we are here to discuss um, what our takeaways were. Did we come away with more clarity or did we come away with more questions? So let's start with the Trey Lance, and let's start with Trey Lance. Let's start there. So in regards, this was one of the kind of overarching quotes to come away from the press conference regarding Trey Lance is that of course John Lynch expects Trey Lance to be on the roster in 2023. I think we all expect Trey Lance to be on the roster in 2023. But it is going to be interesting to see if that is the case. I do think that John Lynch did a pretty solid job of kind of, I wouldn't say putting out the fire surrounding the Trey Lance situation, but I think he did a pretty solid job of trying to kind of remedy it a little bit, basically saying he envisions Trey Lance is going to be on the roster for some time, especially for this year. But I think what abundantly is clear, though, is that I do think the San Francisco 49ers still aren't 100% sold on Trey Lance. That was kind of one of my takeaways is obviously they are happy to see the way he's progressing back from his ankle surgery and the ankle injury that he suffered week 2, but also it does feel like there still is hesitation, especially to call him the guy. They definitely speak about Trey Lance as a guy who's going to be a part of the competition. They talk about Trey Lance as a guy who they envision on the roster moving into this year. But they're not really very committal to anything else after that. So I do think from the overall standpoint, I do think John Lynch kind of managed the rumors a little bit by again putting these comments out here, but also we expect a lot of things, and that doesn't mean things can't change. What I would say about what John Lynch said is that there was no definitive. Okay, we got Christian McCaffrey on the podium after 20 minutes. It felt like we might have to simulcast this. Hold on one second. You guys down to do a simulcast? Hold on one second. So we got Christian McCaffrey at the podium.
Now, do you just kind of you start over again?
Yeah, definitely. I start from square one as if it's my first day and I don't know anything.
Can you guys hear?
Just trying to learn as much as possible. But yes, it's nice to be able to start from square one and getting right with Coach Turner and making sure it's not just learning the plays, but learning every single detail of the positions.
Change how you approach this season?
My approach will be the same. I'll still just try to get as big, strong, fast as I can, and mentally just, like I said, caught up with every position.
Is this your normal pattern where you spend the full offseason program with the team, or is it different this year because of the midseason trade?
Yeah, I've always shown up. I like breaking it up and coming here and being where I'm going to play and really honing in on football for a little bit, and then I'll do more strength and conditioning stuff in my own individual time.
Is that what you did in Carolina as well? You would come as a different?
Yep. Yeah, in Carolina, we always had similar. I learned a new offense, but we always had different coaches come in. So I think I had 5 coordinators in 5 years, so I was always learning the plays.
What's the first thing you told Sam Darnold about this offense when he was looking to come here?
I told him it's fun. I got a lot of weapons and an unbelievable mind calling plays. He already knew all that stuff, though. He had watched all the tape, and he was a fan from afar, so he was fired up to get here.
Quarterback of the Niners getting Sam.
Sam's great. He can do everything. He can make any throw. He's smart. He's able to pick up things quickly and do his job. Doesn't play beyond anything and just does exactly what he's told all the time, and then adds a lot of flair to it too. I got the privilege to play with Sam. Not enough, unfortunately. I had some injuries, but he's another guy too who's just a gamer, and he's tough as hell. He's played through a lot and never made excuses. So happy he's here.
Speaking of Sam, I saw you courtside at the Warriors game, sitting there with him the other day. What's your investment level like right now with the NBA playoffs, and how much you enjoy it?
It's been fun to watch. It's been really fun to watch. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Being able to see those guys up and close is impressive. I think you forget how big, strong, and fast these dudes are and how athletic they are. So it was a lot of fun. And, watching guys like Steph Curry do his thing live in person, it's definitely a different feeling than watching it on TV.
The average person doesn't know about Sam Darnold that you can share.
I don't know what people don't or do know about him, but I'd say like his toughness to me is something that I don't think gets a lot of credit for. But just knowing kind of the stuff that he went through in New York and then in Carolina, and to be able to just keep his head down and continue to work as hard as he did, showed a lot of perseverance, determination, toughness, all that.
The second time in 3 years you've been with the team and Sam arrives. What did he do in Carolina to just kind of get acclimated and make himself part of that team?
Just did his job and he was himself. He did everything the coaches asked him to do, and he was himself, and that's all you really can ask for.
Teams have a propensity to take a big swing when they need to. They did it with Trent. They did it with you. They did it when they traded up for Trey. And I don't think a lot of people had him getting Hargrave. What did you think when the Hargrave edition came in offseason?
Definitely happy we don't have to play against him. He's a stud. He's a guy who, obviously has had a lot of success in his career, and just adding another piece to the defense obviously helps.
The fact that the team is willing to take those big swings, does that energize the team, you think?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think everybody knows where our head is at, and from the top down, we know what we want to accomplish and where we want to go.
It's obviously part of the deal, but you've lost a lot of free agents, a lot of key guys this offseason. Have you felt that in the locker room? Has it been a little bit different, kind of reacclimating without some of those guys?
It's always the tough part of this game is seeing guys go. But no, I mean, we're all still so tight. Our core guys are still amazing, and it's part of the process. It's part of the off season is reacclimating and getting everybody in line for one common goal.
Really experienced coaches working with the running backs here with Coach Land and Coach Turner. Is that different than anything that you've previously encountered in your career? And how does that kind of communication pattern work in the room? How much have you gotten from both of them?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot. This has been the most fun I've had in a meeting room in my career. These guys are so detailed on every single thing. I could sit there and listen to Coach Turner for hours on end because he coaches the X's and O's and beyond the X's and O's, and it's honestly an honor to be in that meeting room, and I think all of us running backs feel that way. And Coach Lynn, who has head coach experience, knows the whole offense, so you're constantly getting pointers from not just the H but the X, all these different positions, and understanding the full dynamic of the play, not just our job and moving on. And so it's been a lot of fun to learn. I've approached it as if I'm a rookie again and just learn from square one.
Congratulations on your engagement. I was curious how that all went. Was that the most nervous you've ever been in your life?
I appreciate it. Definitely nervous. It's a different kind of nervous. But yeah, I was definitely nervous, and yeah, she said yeah. I tricked her into saying yeah, so that was good, and now I'm fired up about it. Thank you.
That's a tough one to follow. But, what was your interaction like with Steve Wilkes, and what are the coordinators getting, and the new defensive coordinator?
Yeah, Coach Wilkes is awesome. I think I could talk about Coach Wilkes a lot and just the type of man he is, but it says a lot to see how all the Panthers players reacted to him and them vouching for him to get the head job. That's a testament to who he is, and that explains a lot about not just the coach he is, but the guy he is. So happy he's on our side.
John Lynch said that Brock has been really positive and just working it every day. Have you seen that from him as well?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, Brock, like I said, I think everybody talked about it last year and who Brock is, but yeah, it's no surprise now that he's a guy who he's going to show up to work every day with a positive attitude and do his job at the best of his ability. And he's done just that. So it's been good seeing him and seeing how hard he's working. Thanks, guys.
All right. Any takeaways from Christian McCaffrey? Anything that he said? He's working out at the facility, which is a positive sign. But just a legend, right? I'll pull up who I think Fred Warner is supposed to speak. Not sure who else is supposed to speak, but if they hop on, I'll just pull them up just because I do want to react to the other comments, but hey, we're fluid here. So let's go back to the Trey Lance conversation. How do you guys feel about Trey Lance? How do you feel about what John Lynch said regarding Trey Lance being on the San Francisco 49ers in 2023? Do you feel like he calmed down the trade rumors, or do you still feel like that is a potential option where the San Francisco 49ers could theoretically still get that call on Trey on draft night and potentially get something that makes them make that move? My thing is I do think the San Francisco 49ers are preparing to move forward this year with Trey Lance on the team. But again, I didn't hear anything that was definitive saying that they wouldn't trade Trey Lance either. So I think the language helped calm down some of the stir for the most part, but I still believe that the door wasn't closed, if that makes sense. So I still think the door is open for Trey Lance to be traded, but at least there was some positive language that would help probably navigate Trey Lance back to the San Francisco 49ers. Whether it's, someone saying in the chat, whether it's there's no market materializing or the 49ers don't want to trade him at all. I do think that there are multiple factors in play. And the San Francisco 49ers, as of right now, feel comfortable. This mosquito. Oh my gosh. My office has been infiltrated by a mosquito, and I am dead set on killing it, because if I don't, he will terrorize me for the rest of the time. Okay, he's on my camera stand. If my camera goes down, it's because... Oh, no. Oh, hold on. Oh, he can feel it coming. Okay, that's a little bit better leverage point. I missed him. Okay. Well, if you see me completely lose track, it's because I have a mosquito to kill. Just like, the 49ers had some rumors to kill today. So that was kind of the original question. Like, do you think the 49ers killed the rumors? Regarding Trey Lance, I don't think they did. I think they just kind of tempered some of those that thought process a little bit. Again, nothing concrete came from it in my opinion. Um but I do still foresee the San Francisco 49ers probably moving forward with Trey Lance on the roster. So we'll see. Ask the mosquito a question. He dipped. He felt his life was in danger, and he is no longer around. Uh, VZ says, does it mean that Lynch is listening to these calls, or is he sending them straight to voicemail? And if it's possible and someone makes it worth their while, will they make the trade happen? I really do think that's kind of where the 49ers sit, is because if you listen to how they talked about Nick Bosa, there was asked if anyone came calling about Nick Bosa. Uh, John Lynch said no, that door is closed and it will never open. In regards to Nick Bosa's potential availability of being traded, I think my takeaway, and that this will also kind of transition into Brock Purdy as well, is that I do believe that the San Francisco 49ers feel extremely confident with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Now, John Lynch gave a little bit of an update on Brock Purdy, basically just saying he's making great progress. He's on pace, doing all that type of stuff. Oh, it looks like we have another guy at the podium. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. All right. Fred Warner's at the podium. I'll bring Fred Warner up, and then we'll come back down and we'll talk about this. Hold on 1 second. I'll bring Fred into the conversation.
Huge impact for our defense.
Opportunity to spend some time with him.
Yeah, we spent some time last week together. I was just kind of asking him how his route was, being on different teams, like how his body was feeling going into, I think it's year 8, and so he's just excited to be a part of the team, and he knew he wanted to go somewhere where he was going to win right away. That was important to him, and that just shows you the type of guy that he is.
You study other defenses, and more specifically, if you watched his film, how much did you see him kind of impact what the Eagles were able to do around him?
Yeah, I mean, all year long, you're keeping up with the top defenses in the league, right? You want to know like how your defense stacks up against the best. That was something that we looked at all year, and the Eagles were up there every week, and it was because of that front four, front five, guys rotating in and out, and Javon was right there in the middle, causing havoc the whole way through. I've seen stats of how many QB pressures he had by himself, and it's kind of just like it's mind-boggling, just to add that to a position of need for us. So I know he's going to make a big impact.
Your first impressions of Steve Wilkes been?
He fits right in. It's been a seamless transition. He's come in and he's taken a hold of everything, and we all respect the heck out of him already. As our coach, the type of guy that he is, you could tell that he genuinely cares about his players. It's important for him to build those relationships with us, and we're starting at ground zero again. Everything we've done in the past is behind us. It's a new year, a new opportunity, and I think that's what's exciting. And I know Steve's going to do an amazing job getting us ready.
He's going to use the things that y'all do well, and then just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that's something that was important for, bringing a new coach in that I guess he is willing to learn what we do, and obviously adjust things to what he believes is going to make us better. That's his job, is making us the best defense and continuing to raise the bar. And I know he has high expectations for us. He's coming in just a super humble guy, super humble, ready to get to work, and we're all feeding off of that same exact energy.
Draft fan? Do you like watch the draft? And
Of course.
put slots and-
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, every year you see guys who are rookies who make a huge impact, and you never know how big of a role certain guys are going to play in that given year. But the draft is where, guys like me, third-round draft pick, come in and develop, become, key players for the team. And so every year I love to see who's going to be the next one up.
For anybody? Do you petition for anybody?
No petitioning. I feel like the further and further away I get from the college game, it's hard for me to keep up with who's coming in and out of the draft, especially past like the first 5 or 10 picks that you might hear about in social media or on TV or something. But I know John and Kyle and all those guys, they do such a good job of finding guys that fit what we do, fit our culture. Obviously, you want the best football players, but you want guys who obviously fit what we do as well.
You remember what people said about you, and in retrospect, was it fair?
I for sure remember. Everything. It was fair though. I think that's their job. Guys, that's everybody's job during this process, is to try to break guys down, see what they do well, see what they need to work on. I was a project. I was coming in positionless, basically. Just a raw athlete ready to be molded, and so I came into the perfect situation.
The guys like you in this building, 3rd round, 5th round, 7th round, whatever, that have had a big impact. What is it about this place? Why do you think it works out? And do you preach that to these guys that come in, like, hey, look at me, look what I did?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm not even like the poster of what guys can become. You've seen guys who, even in later rounds, who've done a whole lot more than I've done. I think the important thing to always remember is it doesn't matter where you're drafted or even undrafted. Once you arrive on a team, it's all about what you do going forward. Everybody's looked at the same. What you do in between those white lines is what really matters, and what you're going to be judged on. I was told early on by Coach Sala that you hold the pen to your story. Whatever you want your legacy to be, you are in full control of that every single day that you step in just on the facility grounds, and especially on the field. But you never let somebody else hold the pen for you.
What does Sean Gibson returning do for your defense?
It's huge, obviously, with the amazing talent and player that he is, which he showed again last year, but also in the aspect of being a leader, a seasoned veteran for that room. Especially losing some guys in free agency, but just kind of having that veteran leadership presence in that back four.
The line on Wilkes is that he's not going to change much, but have you gotten a sense on whether he's going to change anything? I mean, will there be wrinkles, things in the back end that are different?
I'm sure time will tell. The fact that he has that background of coaching defensive backs and really being involved in that part of it. I know he wants to be hands-on with those guys and tidying things up in the back end. Just from kind of seeing things this first couple of weeks of OTAs, I know he wants us to be more aggressive. That's kind of been the thing. Like, as I've been here more, like, and grown in the system and seeing it progress, you see that we want to be more and more aggressive in the front seven. So, like I said, time will tell.
John was talking about you're trying to identify guys in the draft that have the right football spirit that are going to play hard. I mean, all the cliches. It seems like everyone's going to be like that. But your interactions with the Niners before the draft, I don't know. Do you remember anything specifically as far as them trying to identify? Does this guy love football? Does this guy, play his ass off? All that stuff.
Sure. Let me just say, I would never want to be a GM or a college scout, because I'm like, I don't get how you can you handpick these cats out of all these different schools all over the country to, like, and you're saying that this guy's going to turn into something, and it's all like projections. You don't really know until they come here, and you try to develop them, and There's so many different things that go into account of a guy's development, but I think in terms of when they brought me in, just really sitting me down, and having these conversations of like, not even just all about football, but just you want to like just talk to a kid face to face, like because obviously you see it, you write up these reports about him, you watch them on tape, and then you want to know like, all right, well, when I sit down with a man to man, like what's that conversation like, you know? And so you can usually get a good vibe about if a guy's just kind of, you know, has lines written down, he's kind of just rehearsing them, or if he's like being genuine about what he's saying. But even then, it's like it's all words. You know, you can say whatever you want. It's what you do though. When what matters, that's what matters most. Cool.
Muted. Thank you. Um, so let's get into this. Thank you for letting me know that I was muted, because now it's time to actually have a conversation about all this good stuff. Let's talk about our takeaways. We were talking about Brock Purdy, Trey Lance before Fred Warner came on. Great to hear from Fred Warner. Great to hear his thoughts on the draft process. Fred Warner, you know, consummate professional, doing all that type of stuff. But in regards to Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, it still feels like the San Francisco 49ers have a lot of confidence in Brock Purdy, even with the situation regarding his arm. The continued conversation coming out of Santa Clara continues to be, this is Brock Purdy's job. Brock Purdy is the one who has the opportunity to. Eric Armstead's talking right now, but I'm just going to keep cooking along. So the San Francisco 49ers, clearly it feels like they have a lot of confidence in Brock Purdy and what Brock Purdy's future is as the team's quarterback one. It sounds like the 49ers are going to keep Trey Lance around to be able to compete and be able to have an opportunity to regain that potential spot. But it really does sound like when they talk about Brock Purdy, there's a lot of confidence there. They have John Lynch even said it when he was talking about potentially looking into Lamar Jackson and a trade of Lamar Jackson. He referenced the conviction that they have in Brock Purdy, and then he went on to say the rest of the quarterback room as well. But he started with Brock, and he said it starts with the conviction that we have in Brock. I do believe that the 49ers, as an organization, have the conviction to move forward. You know, they're going to move forward with the room, but it still continues to feel like they are very confident in what Brock Purdy has to offer. So it's gonna be fascinating to see how it plays out. We had CMC come on and talk about Sam Darnold. CMC was talking about one of the traits that Sam Darnold doesn't get discussed enough was you know, his toughness and things like that. So the 49ers quarterback, I think it's going to just be an ongoing conversation, as we already understand. But what we do understand as well is that they feel confident in Brock Purdy. If Trey Lance gets in there, balls out, and has some good performances and is able to lead the 49ers potentially to some wins, if he gets into some games and actually starts, then there's an opportunity for Trey Lance to do the same thing that Brock Purdy did. But obviously, Brock Purdy has played in basically double the amount of games that Trey Lance has had. and technically Brock hasn't lost. So there's a lot of confidence there. He's won playoff games, big time playoff games. So that's my read on it. That's my reaction. My reaction is the San Francisco 49ers still view Brock Purdy as quarterback one. Trey Lance will be on the roster and will be given an opportunity to compete for a potential job. But it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like they discuss the two in the same way, if that makes sense. So that's how I've took the whole conversation about Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. Did they close the door on Trey Lance trade conversations? Not necessarily. They calmed them down a little bit. But I do think, if a team calls on draft night and they maybe give the 49ers a deal that they couldn't refuse, they probably would accept it. So again, I don't think we're out the weeds yet. I think we still have to wait until after the draft. And also, another thing that John Lynch said about after the draft was about Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk is clearly one. Oh, wait. Let me get the super chat in before we go to Brandon Aiyuk. Antonio says, I think it's disrespectful to Trey to keep talking over him and lifting up Brock. It's almost like they're not even backing him. I think it's, I don't know if it's necessarily disrespectful. I could definitely rationalize and understand how it could come across as disrespectful. But I think when you're inside of a locker room and a guy like Brock Purdy has taken ownership of a locker room, has taken leadership, like the leadership intangible, has won football games. He's done it within the white lines of a football field. I think that just changes. I think it just changes. Oh, oh, he's on me. He's on me. Stupid mosquito, man. I really do think it just comes down to Brock has proven it to them. They've seen it up close and personal. And they feel comfortable moving forward. And again, they have to be able to also send a message to the locker room. They have to be able to, they're not only speaking to the fan base, but they're also speaking to their room internally. They're speaking to the guys on that roster. And when you're talking about football, you're talking about a sport that is typically proven on the field. It's you win jobs based on how you perform in games if you get that opportunity. It's also based on what you do in practice, all that type of stuff. But the way I'm looking at it is Brock has just done so much more, and you can't argue that he hasn't. Brock has done more than Trey Lance. Now, there's circumstances that play into all of these things. And, we're not going to sit here and pretend like Trey breaking his ankle completely, I think, changed the course of his career with the San Francisco 49ers, because I think the 49ers would have given Trey Lance the same kind of leash that Jimmy Garoppolo got in 2021. He would have had an opportunity to potentially go 3-5 and fight his way back and see what they had and see if he improved and things like that. So I'm not necessarily viewing it as disrespect. I'm more viewing it as they have all collectively seen enough based on the body of work and continued body of work to move forward with Brock Purdy as the team's quarterback one. And again, I think it comes down to just actually putting it on tape, doing it. And That's just the thing that we keep coming back to with Trey Lance is that we haven't seen enough. We need more reps. That's always what is said is more reps, more reps, more reps. Um, so we'll see, man. But again, like we've heard it from the players themselves. We've heard it from guys like Fred Warner, who said he realized Brock Purdy had the it factor from practice. They've never said that about Trey Lance. Are the players being disrespectful to Trey Lance? So I definitely understand how it can come across like disrespect. I really don't think it is. I don't think it's coming. I don't think they're trying to be disrespectful at all because unfortunately, heading into year 3, Trey Lance's draft status and what was given up to go get him doesn't matter anymore. Obviously, it plays a factor and it's going to be something that kind of affects his value from the outside perspective. But when it comes to winning football games, that's all they care about. They don't like Fred Warner said about it. I think Fred Warner talked about it too. He's like, man, it doesn't matter where you're drafted. Like what all that matters is once you get in the building is making a name for yourself. And what Fred Warner was speaking to, Fred was speaking to being a late round draft pick or being undrafted is like it doesn't matter where you were taken. Just get your foot in the building. And then once you're in the building, make the most of it. Well, look what Brock Purdy did. Brock Purdy got his foot in the door as Mr. Irrelevant, and he made the most of his opportunities. Well, same thing goes for Trey Lance. Trey Lance got his foot in the door, but he got his foot in the door as the number 3 overall pick with all the draft capital given up, and unfortunately just hasn't been able to take advantage of the opportunities. So I think it's less disrespectful and more so, giving credit to what Brock has done. That's my particular view on it. In regards to the whole, Trey Lance conversation. I know a lot of people are perceiving it as disrespect because they've been rooting for Trey Lance and they want Trey Lance to be able to get an opportunity and they feel he's deserving of the opportunity. So we'll see. Antonio says, I agree, but why not start getting behind the guy you have right now? That's how that's how a locker room runs too. But that's what they're doing. They're behind Brock Purdy. That's kind of the point is, you know, you have heard the commentary or the statement like if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, right? And, without saying Brock Purdy is the guy, they are saying Brock Purdy's the guy. And that is also part of, the process. And that's part of what the San Francisco 49ers are doing. So it's just unfortunate it's not happening with Trey right now. It's happening with Brock. So they are continuing to proceed. The messaging seems clear. They are moving forward with Brock Purdy as the assumed quarterback 1. Like, I think they feel really comfortable with Brock Purdy. I think that's what they keep talking to us about. Like, I mean, you can go back to when they had the NFL Honors Awards and you have Jed York tweeting out about how much he appreciates what Brock Purdy is doing. Like, they love this kid. Like, I understand fans love Trey Lance too, and that's where I believe it is coming across as disrespect. It's because fans feel slighted. Fans feel slighted because they're rooting for Trey Lance and because it doesn't feel like it's tilting in their direction, they are also now feeling the emotional ramifications that come along with putting your eggs in the Trey Lance basket. And it doesn't feel like the franchise and the team that you're rooting for are reciprocating that. And that's why I think it comes across as disrespectful when I don't think that's what's happening. I think internally, with everything that we know how the San Francisco 49ers run, I don't think they are that type of disrespectful. It just doesn't match what they do, at least from what we've heard from former players, current players, other people in the front office. I'm just not sure that they would go out of their way to put a guy down. I'm not sure I've ever seen that. Um, but at the end of the day, it's Brock, and rightfully so. Brock won playoff games. Brock is undefeated, and that's ultimately what matters most at the end of the day. So I think that's how the 49ers are moving. And if Trey Lance gets an opportunity, wins 8 games in a row, I would imagine that he's going to be able to have a really good shot at keeping the quarterback job. So it goes both ways. So we'll see. What I do think is interesting is the conversations around Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk, I think what John Lynch had said was very non-committal to the future of Brandon Aiyuk. It does appear that the San Francisco 49ers envision Brandon Aiyuk being on the San Francisco 49ers for some time to come, or excuse me, for the coming year, next year. But that's all I took away from that. And as we've known, again, if you guys have watched the interview that I did with Brandon Aiyuk, when I asked him about his thoughts on the future with the San Francisco 49ers, um, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of confidence built in the future, what the future looked like. I would say the same thing occurred with Brandon Aiyuk. What I do believe they did was build some confidence for Brandon Aiyuk being on the roster in 2023. So this year, so it it does feel like they're going to pick up the 5th-year option. However, I do find it very interesting that the San Francisco 49ers didn't announce that they were picking up his 5th-year option. Rather, they were going to announce it after the draft. Which the reason why I find that to be interesting is because that would give another team an opportunity to also kind of maybe potentially negotiate a contract if a trade did materialize. Um, I would imagine that I don't know what the cap ramifications are, but I would imagine if you officially picked up his 5th-year option, there would be something along that is attached to it. I don't know, speculating, because I don't know that much about franchise tags and how that works to trade someone on the franchise tag. But I know when you typically trade someone on that's been franchise tagged, they're trying to get a new deal. They're trying to negotiate a new deal. So what I think we can take away about Brandon Aiyuk is that we still don't know what the future holds. And when you look at Brandon Aiyuk, he still is the most valuable trade commodity probably on the San Francisco 49ers right now. In a passing league, he has wide receiver 1 upside. He can block, he can run, he can do things behind the line of scrimmage. He's clearly a dog. He's grown and matured from a mental standpoint and is continuing to grow and mature in that way as well. He still remains likely the San Francisco 49ers' most valuable trade piece. I've been saying this for a long time, not because I want him to be traded, but just to understand the reality of the situation is that when you have a player who's 24, 25 years old, who's ascending, who is a number 1 caliber wide receiver in a passing first league, and the San Francisco 49ers have to eventually pay him, and they're going to pay Nick Bosa. We know he's going to break the bank and be one of the probably the highest paid defender ever. He's going to get legitimate quarterback money. So I'm I'm still in the wait and see mode with Brandon Ayuk. I like what John Lynch had to say about their plans are, competing for a Super Bowl this year. And, Brandon Ayuk would be a big part of that. And I do believe that. Like, if the San Francisco 49ers want to win a championship in 2023, their best ability to do so is with Brandon Ayuk on the roster. I think trading Brandon Ayuk severely hurts your chances of winning a Super Bowl, even if you have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. But, we out of Debo Samuel, like, we know when Debo's on, he's on. But what we've been had a hard time with Debo is him just finding that consistency, whether it's with his health or with his play on the field. Um, we're just looking for more consistency out of Debo Samuel from a high level. And let's play the hypothetical situation. If Brandon Ayuk were to if Debo Samuel were to go down with an injury and you trade away BA, well, what do you have? You've got Juwan Jennings, Danny Gray, Ray McLeod, probably a wide receiver that you draft in this upcoming class. So it makes it harder for me to want to trade Brandon Ayuk because as a fan, my ultimate goal for the 49ers is to win a Super Bowl next year. And I think that Brandon Ayuk being on the San Francisco 49ers in 2023 gives them their best shot at that. So my hope is that we get through the draft, we get to Monday, Brandon Ayuk's fifth-year option is picked up, and we officially know that Brandon Ayuk will be a San Francisco 49er in 2023. Now, even if they pick up his fifth-year option, I still think, oh, you're right, I forgot about Chris Conley. Even if they pick up his fifth-year option, I still believe that doesn't give us a huge indication of what his future is. I still think his future is in question because I don't know how they're going to pay everyone. And if Brandon Ayuk balls out at $14 million for next season, which is what his franchise tag would cost, fully guaranteed $14 million, he'll get paid as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL next year. I don't think the 49ers can afford that. So I don't know if you get into a situation where you're just inevitably kicking in the can down the curb. Like, because I think both things can be true. Trading Brandon Ayuk in 2023 would be a mistake, but also we don't know what Brandon Ayuk's future holds past 2024. I think both those things can be true at the same time, which is why I don't envy these guys in the front office who have to make these decisions, because what it comes down to is they have to see into the future. They have to build out the roster. They want to recoup assets for guys that are leaving. They openly admitted to shopping Mike McGlinchey. At least John Lynch did. He said that, the 49ers knew that a year down the road that they were probably going to be outpriced on Mike McGlinchey to bring him back. So they wanted to get value in return. So they openly shopped McGlinchey. So there's no reason why that might not be happening with Aiyuk. So do I agree with that in regards to winning a championship in 2023? Absolutely not. If you want to win a championship in 2023, you need Brandon Ayuk on the roster. But if you're also asking me the question, how do you build long-term sustainability and recouping assets? And you don't plan on paying Brandon Ayuk, then you also have to consider a trade. So it's a double-edged sword. It's a spot that I don't think the 49ers like to be in. I think they want to keep Ayuk. I think they love what Ayuk has done and what he's been able to contribute, but they also understand the reality that Brandon Ayuk could very well not fit into their future plans based on just being priced out, like we saw from Mike McGlinchey. So tough times. What would you say? Like, would you trade Brandon Ayuk under any circumstances? Like, what if the 49ers got a first and more? Like, what if they got a top 25 pick plus a future pick, maybe in 2024, like a third or a fourth, and they got a haul. Like they got something where you're like, oh, that's you get something where you could potentially flip it and might not be at wide receiver right away. Like you're not swapping receivers. It wouldn't be like a DeForest Buckner for 13 draft Kinlaw. It might be trade Aiyuk for a first round pick, draft an edge, draft, a premier tackle, something like that. I don't know if it would be like the whole Javon Kinlaw, DeForest Buckner situation, but that's where I think we have to, like, at minimum, be alert. So that's my takeaway. My takeaway from John Lynch speaking about Brandon Ayuk is they love Brandon Ayuk. They love what Brandon brings to the table. They want Brandon Ayuk here, but there's also a reality where Brandon Ayuk probably is going to get priced out. So that's the hard truths that we have to face and be prepared for in the next couple days. So I'm still not out the weeds yet with any trade. I still think the San Francisco 49ers are open for business in the Trey Lance category, in the Brandon Ayuk category. That doesn't mean anything's going to happen, but I do think the options are available. That's why we needed to just get to the other side of the draft. We need to get to Monday so that we understand who's here and who's not here. Because again, when we're recapping and we're reacting to what John Lynch says, I don't think John Lynch put a seal on anything, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think John Lynch, like, I thought he did a really good job of talking about and calming it a little bit. But when you start really diving into definitive language and reading between the lines and kind of understanding that this team isn't just operating for this moment in the next 3 days. They're also operating in the moment for next year and the year after that. And they have a projection. Guarantee you, Parag Marathe has a full-blown projection of what the 49ers can afford next year, the following year after that, all the triggers of contracts in place. I guarantee you there is a beautiful spreadsheet that exists within the San Francisco 49ers that will tell you all that information. And I guarantee you they could pull that up, and that spreadsheet can tell you, man, we're not going to be able to afford Brandon Ayuk in a year from now. Doesn't matter how much we want him. Doesn't matter what our plans are, we just won't be able to afford him. So if we can get him at his highest value right now, maybe that's something we explore. I would hate the idea of trading Brandon Ayuk. I would. I think that would suck. And I think that would hurt the 49ers offense for sure. There's no doubt about it. So it's going to continue to be fascinating to see what the 49ers opt to do, because we did see a similar situation where they traded Defoe and they tried to swap for a player. And unfortunately, Javon Kinlaw just hasn't been able to stay on the field. They got cheaper. They were able to keep Jimmy Ward to Eric Armstead, and they were able to spread the money out elsewhere, but ultimately lost to Forrest Buckner, who was one of the most prominent players in the locker room, leadership, quality, intent, all of it. So just got to be alert to it all. I think the 49ers have told us that they will keep their options open. So it would be a disservice to our own emotions, I believe, to watch that press conference and be like, oh, they're not trading anyone. Like, I'm not predicting that they will, but I'm also not closing the door that they won't, if that makes sense. I think all options are available. So we'll see ultimately what happens. But let me ask you guys: do you see? Let's ask the chat. We'll poll the chat. Let me know what you feel like. Put your answers in the chat below. Do you see any scenario where the San Francisco 40 or like I'm trying to figure out how to like word this because I think you guys are smart enough to understand what I'm saying as well. Let's do it this way. Let's do percentage chance, all right? Because I think you guys are all smart enough to understand the variables at play. And even though we don't agree that the 49ers should trade Brandon Aiyuk, should trade Trey Lance, we do understand why these conversations are being had. I think we're all smart enough to understand that. So let's do it this way. What are you could do it. Let's do with Trey Lance first. Let's do Trey Lance first. Drop in the chat what is the percentage chance that you think Trey Lance is traded over the weekend during the NFL draft? What is your percentage chance? Obviously 100% meaning he's traded, 0% chance meaning there's no chance at all that Trey Lance is going anywhere. Let's start with Trey and then we'll move our way down. So drop it in the chat, drop your percentage chance of what you believe Trey Lance getting traded will be. And again, this is just to gauge kind of where our minds are at. It's not you rooting for him to get traded. It's not you wanting him to get traded. It's none of that. It's just how you're logically processing this whole situation. 187 says 10% chance he gets traded, 50% chance, 50-50, 15% chance. Boomer says I think it's like a 10% chance of trading Trey, 75%, so that's our highest one so far. 35%, 0%, 30%, 5%, 50%, 30%, 10%. So we got two 75%. Liz says 0. How about them Niners says 1%? Not going to happen, basically. Ruben says 85. That means a high likelihood that it's going to happen. Colin says 70%. Harold getting cute with his 13%. 10%. Justin's feeling 45%. 4%. 0%. 15%. 0%, 1% chance. I feel like if you're dropping a 1% chance, it's because you really don't think it's going to happen. But just like I didn't think Jimmy Garoppolo was ever going to return to the San Francisco 49ers, what did I say his return, the chances that Jimmy Garoppolo returned to the Niners last year? I said it was a 0.001%. And the reason I said it was 0.001% is because you never know. Anything can happen, of course. Jimmy Garoppolo returned to the roster. So anything can happen. I'll never put anything at a 0. It's very rare that I will say 0% chance because a lot of things can happen. But if I had to put a percent chance on Trey Lance getting traded, I would have it at about 30%. And the reason why I have it at 30% is because I do think the San Francisco 49ers are open to listen to offers. I think if a team was motivated to get Trey Lance, I think they would reciprocate and discuss it. But I don't necessarily know what that value looks like, what a team is willing to give up for Trey, and what the 49ers would need to give up Trey. So the reason I'm calling it 30% is because I think the 49ers would be open to it, but I'm not necessarily sure that those things align, that they get the compensation they want, or they have enough interesting, or like, not interesting, but interested parties. Um, and honestly, it makes too much sense, I think, with the 49ers quarterback situation as of recently to not go into this season with two quarterbacks. I feel like they need three. Whether it's Brock, Trey, Sam, Brock, Sam, rookie, they need three quarterbacks. Or it's Trey, Sam, rookie, Brock on PUP. They need three quarterbacks. So that's what I think it really comes down to. What do they get in return? Do they get the haul that they want? I don't know. It'll be interesting. But let's now take that same exercise. Let's take the same exercise. Let's apply it to Brandon Ayuk. What is the percentage chance that Brandon Ayuk gets traded uh, before Monday? So through the draft, what would you say the percentage chance that Brandon Ayuk gets traded? Drop it in the chat. Again, this isn't based on your feelings. It's not based on you wanting to trade Brandon Ayuk. It's based on what you've heard. It's based on the same example that was given about Mike McGlinchey, the foresight that we're probably not going to be able to pay Mike McGlinchey. So we're going to try to recoup as much value as we possibly can. In the meantime, again, it's not your feelings of like, man, we need Brandon Ayuk. No, it's how are the 49ers, how are they doing this? How are they potentially working this if they get a good off? So see, I think with Brandon Ayuk will have more suitors. I think other teams would be more motivated to trade for Brandon Ayuk and give up a decent haul for Brandon Ayuk. Because if you look at this wide receiver class, you've got Addison, you've got the Ohio State, whatever his name is, Jackson Nimba. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Just shows you how much I've done on the top wide receivers in this class, because I haven't done anything on them because I don't anticipate the 49ers drafting them. I think it's Jackson and Nigba. She's got a hyphen name. I know I'm butchering it. You know what I'm talking about. But like, you've got I think it's Quentin Johnson out of TCU. You got Zay Flowers. There's a whole bunch of names that I'm blanking on, but like, I think Brandon Ayuk right now is probably better than a lot of those wide receivers, because you know what Brandon Ayuk is in the NFL. Like, you don't know how these wide receivers are always going to translate. You know, Brandon Ayuk has translated. He's arrived. He is arrived as a wide receiver that needs to be given his respect, and there's value there. So I'm sure a team, if they're going to take a rookie wide receiver and they're in a win now type situation, and like, let's say the Chargers or something, they're like, listen, we got Mike Williams and we got Keenan Allen, but these guys are on the back half of their career. We got Palmer, but you get a Brandon Ayuk in there with Justin Herbert. Maybe that's enough for the offense to take that step further. So The question is how much does another team value Brandon Ayuk? And if they do value them, we know the 49ers value Brandon. So it comes down to what are you willing to pay? So let's take a look. 40% chance Brandon Ayuk gets traded, 40%, 1%, 10%, another 50%, 30%, 45%, 25. Charlene says, unfortunately, more towards 50%. Justin says 45%, 10%, 2%. Ayuk, 85%, 25%. If we trade Ayuk, I'm going to throw up. Yeah, it's going to be a bummer for sure. Harold says 69%. Nice. 10%, 10%. 11% is my feeling. 3 is my actual guess, and I believe you're 1% with Trey. So we bumped you up 2% to Ayuk. 50%, 0% chance BA gets traded this draft season. 30%. Ayuk more likely to get traded next year. I kind of agree with that a little bit. I feel like if I had to give a percentage chance that Ayuk gets traded in this draft, I probably am at 40% just because he's more valuable. But I agree with what John Lynch says. If the San Francisco 49ers want to compete for a Super Bowl, they need Brandon Ayuk on this team. Like you have to. So if they can afford it, and again, I'm not a cap guy, so I don't know what picking up his $14 million fully guaranteed 5th-year option looks like against the cap. If they can manage that, if they can't manage that, I'm not really sure. But if you want to win a Super Bowl in 2023, you need Brandon Ayuk on your roster. That's what it comes down to. And because of that, I think that's what makes his asking price probably very high. I would be shocked to see a team meet the San Francisco 49ers asking price for Brandon Ayuk because I would imagine it would be in the same realm of what maybe Deebo Samuel would have cost. And I don't know if any team's willing to pay for that. So I do have it a little bit higher. I have him at a 40% still, just because he's valuable. Like other teams are going to want him, but at what price are they going to want him? And at what price are the 49ers willing to sell at? And I don't think it will be cheap. I think if you're coming to pay for Brandon Ayuk and pry him away from the 49ers, you better come with an offer that the 49ers can't refuse. Like it would have to be a trade where even the biggest fans of Brandon Ayuk are like, it's not a bad trade because just of the value that you get in return. It's got to be that, like, to mitigate the entire fan base melting down from a Brandon Ayuk trade. The trade would have to be something where you're like, you could objectively take a step back and be like, okay, this makes sense. At least right now, like right now, it makes sense because you got a haul. I know the 49ers will process it differently. But because I do talk to fans every single day, that's kind of where I think and what I think. But I still think, though, when it's all said and done, I do think Brandon Ayuk and Trey Lance are San Francisco 49ers on Monday. I do. Regardless of all the talking that we've done, trying to look at every single range of outcome, trying to look at every single perspective. After getting through all of that, I still think both players are going to be members of the 49ers on Monday because I just don't know that a team is going to come knocking to pay what it would take to get them because the 49ers can't sell them for cheap. They can't. They need a premium plus some. So it has to be. What I would want in return for Brandon Ayuk, s- um, there's only one acceptable answer in my opinion, and it would be Brian Burns. Like, but again, it's highly unrealistic. Um, I don't think it makes sense to. I mean, the Panthers need a wide receiver one, but I don't know. It still doesn't make sense totally from a logical standpoint. Um, for me to want to trade Brandon Ayuk, it would be minimum first round pick. Uh, minimum first round pick, but that's not enough. It's not enough. I feel like you'd have to do a mid rounder, like a third. You do first, a third, and a conditional sixth that could be a fifth or something like that. Like you need a haul. You need a haul for BA. You ain't th- it would be big time mismanagement to trade Brandon Ayuk for not very much. Because again, if you can fit his cap hit of picking up the 5th-year option on your roster next year, then you've got to do that because we're trying to win, man. We're trying to win a freaking Super Bowl. I don't know how that would work out for a trade next year. Because if they pick up his 5th year, he would be playing next year on his 5th year. Is that how it works? Like next year he'd be playing on the 5th year, or next year he would be playing on his. Hold on, I gotta look at it just to make sure. With Brandon, let's see. Yeah, see, like this would probably get a Brandon Ayuk trade done, is but is a team willing to spend that? That's the real question. Is are they willing to spend that amount on Ayuk? I don't know. So Brandon is heading into his 4th year. So, okay. So in 2024, he would be playing on his 5th year. That's how it would work. That's how it would work. So it'd still be on his rookie deal in 2023. And then he would be heading so Brandon Ayuk's cap hit in 2023 is basically 4 million, a little bit under 4 million. So this makes more sense to me for the 49ers. I'm glad I looked at this. So because Brandon Ayuk's cap hit is 4 million next season, and then the $14 million hit comes in 2024, I do agree that this makes much more sense to keep Brandon Ayuk in 2023, especially when you're trying to win a championship. And then in 2024, before he's going to be playing on a $14 million contract, that probably makes more sense to trade him at that point. So that's actually kind of how I see it playing out. So you're getting a steal for Brandon Ayuk in 2023, right? 4 million for Brandon Aiyuk in 2023, 14 million in 2024. Then I think that's where the conversation changes. So actually, I'm gonna make an amendment to my percent chance. I'm gonna drop my 40% chance down to 8%. I think this is a crucial piece of information. I think I was under the impression that the 14 million would kick in for this next year. It's not. It's the following year. So because you're getting Brandon Ayuk on such a, I mean, that's a steal. 4 million for Brandon Ayuk in 2023. That's what you're paying. Again, even if you pick up his 5th year, that doesn't kick in until 2024. So I'm changing my percentage chance. Teams are going to be interested in him for sure, but again, if the ultimate goal is winning a championship and you can keep and you're getting Ayuk on his 4th year, likely in the prime of his career, at that cost, you got to keep him for one more year at minimum. Got to keep him for one more year at minimum. Then you can play with the idea of potentially moving him. But I think that's the way you got to play it out, man. Keep Ayuk this year no matter what. Don't trade Brandon Aiyuk. Don't do it. Don't think about it. Don't do any. Don't do it. Next year. Next year. Next year. Next year. Next year I can manage those conversations. This year, keep him. Don't do anything. You don't need to do anything. That's the beauty of it, is they don't need to do anything. So I'm glad I looked at that. That kind of brought me back to reality of what his contract looks like and like what I think they could be doing. So don't move Ayuk. Don't do it. 4 million next year, steal. Steal. Don't do it. 2024, I can accept the conversations. I can accept it because they would then be negotiating his new deal under that circumstance. So, and they were talking about shopping McGlinchey while he was playing on his 5th year. So that aligns with what they were saying. So the 5th year doesn't count for this year, it counts for next year. So that's how it works. This is what I want. BA Niner for life. He should be. He should be, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm excited about the draft, man. I really am. I think the 49ers are going to do some fun stuff. I think that they are going to be active. I think the 49ers are going to do a lot. And I think they're going to grab some good players. John Lynch talked about the depth in this class. There's a lot of depth. It's going to be fascinating to see which teams target which type of players, and it's going to be fascinating to see which players the 49ers target in this draft. But they can get it. They can get quality tackle. They can get quality safety. They can get quality wide receivers and linebackers. I mean, this class is so deep that even if they don't trade up, they could still get someone that they really, really like. I like this. If Ayuk signs a multi-year extension with the Niners, I'll buy his jersey. I like that. I like that. Justin says, could you see them trading a running back with them, looking at RBs in the draft? So when we've had these conversations in the past about who the most valuable 49ers are via trade, it was Elijah Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk. So we've been talking about that for a couple months now, just because we are being, real with ourselves that that's the time of year it is. And you kind of have to look at your roster and see who the 49ers would value and potentially maybe move. Elijah Mitchell was the name that I had mentioned. And with the 49ers poking around a lot of like third round running backs, you know, I know a lot of fans would be really upset with a third round running back. I don't think the 49ers really care um, where they take someone. They're gonna do what they do. They don't care about outside perception regarding prospects or perceived values or things like that. I mean, just ask Trent Baalke. Yeah, they don't care. So if they're if they like someone like a Sean Tucker out of Syracuse, Roshan Johnson out of Texas, and someone is willing to spend a third or fourth round pick on Elijah Mitchell, I think they do that because look at the way that they've handled their running backs in the past. They sold Breida for a fifth round pick. And the reason why that was a W is because Breida was an undrafted free agent. You flip an undrafted free agent for a fifth round pick, there's value there. You take Jeff Wilson, undrafted free agent, you flip him for a fifth round pick, that's a W because of the value you recouped. So if you take Elijah Mitchell, who's a sixth round pick, and you flip him for a fourth or a third round pick, then that seems like a win in regards to value. Do the 49ers do that? I don't know. It feels like they like Elijah Mitchell quite a bit. Uh, but again, things happen. Players change teams all the time. So I wouldn't put it past them. But ultimately, it's a value game. And if Elijah, even with his injury history, could fetch a third or fourth, I think the 49ers would consider it. Like, let's say the Titans trade Derrick Henry. I saw rumors. I thought it happened. I don't know. I must have misread because I wasn't really paying attention to my phone this weekend. But I feel like we saw rumors that Derrick Henry could be potentially traded. Well, maybe Rand Carthon was like, "Well, I'll give you a fourth for Elijah if we trade away, if we trade away Derrick Henry and then give the 49ers a fourth for Elijah." I could see something like that happening. Because again, from the 49ers standpoint, they are recouping their return on investment was good because they took a sixth, they flipped it to a fourth. You have Jordan Mason, you have TDP, and then you can draft another running back. So we'll see. It's a value game, I would say, at this point. All that good stuff. Eli Mitchell seems like the most likely trade with Jordan Mason in the wings. And of course, TDP still there. So we'll see. Harold says, Brad, can you do another late night stream and do a best game day food draft? Ooh. I like that idea. I need to do more late night gang streams where we just vibe. What are the chances the Niners trade into the first round? Do we have a package for it? I feel like it would take a lot. Now, I'm not super familiar with kind of, I think it was Jimmy Johnson trade value chart that a lot of teams still kind of use or reference. I want to even see if I could find that. All right. I think I got it. So it's like a point system. Trading into the first round. All right, let me take a look at this. So if the 49ers wanted to trade into the first, you can see at the top Carolina 3,000 points for their pick. But when you look at, you can see the points decrease in value, obviously, due to the value of each pick. Detroit got this particular pick in the Stafford trade, I think 18 as well. So the 49ers are currently sitting at 99. That has a value of 104, 96, 93. So based on this draft chart, if you took these three picks, it wouldn't equal the value. It would still be essentially half the value of pick 31. So that's kind of where I think, oh, you can't even see. Let me move this up. Let me move this up. All right, now you should be able to see. So again, it's not a perfect science, right? It's not a perfect science, but you can get a sense, right? Like if we traded all those threes, you got to take that value, you got to add it up, and you got to see what it will get you. And if you were to take all those threes, you could get, in this range, into the 60s, whatever. That's why, like, I've been kind of poking around mid 70s to 80s for a trade up, because you can still get up there and get a good player, but you could be a little bit more crafty in what you're giving up, especially when you're looking towards future draft pick compensation. So for getting up into the first might be hard. Yeah, you might have to give up a player or a potentially high pick in the second round or in the 2024 draft. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it doesn't feel like we have the ammunition to get into the first unless we make some splash move, which I'm okay with the 49ers not making a splash move. I'd like to keep the guys that we have on our roster. Um, in the primary spots. If we moved a role player, I could be better about it. I could feel better about that, but so it'll be fascinating to see. I do think the 49ers move, though. I think they trade up. I think getting into, the mid 70s, 80s, it just feels like a perfect spot, especially for guys falling out. And just grab a guy there. Grab your Abraham Lucas of last year right there. Grab someone. But again, I don't know about you guys. I'm still really excited about this draft. I'm really excited about the talent in this draft. I know the 49ers are probably going to take someone that I wasn't anticipating, like they always do. But nonetheless, they're smarter than me for a reason. They pick well. So we'll see who they ultimately pick when it's all said and done. But I think from a positional standpoint, definitely want to see tackle addressed, edge addressed, safety addressed, linebacker, tight end, cornerback, basically every position. But you know what I'm saying. We've talked about this. We're in lockstep. We understand what we think it's going to take for the 49ers to get this done. But while we sit here and squabble back and forth about the quarterback position, the San Francisco 49ers are still in a fantastic spot to be able to build a strong roster to help compete for a Super Bowl. So I'm excited about it. Looking really, really excited about it. So appreciate everyone tapping in today. Obviously, we had a lot of stuff to discuss. Plenty of things to keep us going in 49ers content creator land. Because it is in fact the 49ers that are creating all the content. We're just reacting to it. And all that good stuff. So it's going to be fascinating. Draft coming up on Thursday. I have some guests scheduled for the stream. I'll tease you a little bit. One beat reporter, one 49ers player. I'll officially announce them the day of. So probably one tomorrow, one Wednesday leading up to the draft. So we should have one beat reporter and one 49ers current player for Tuesday and Wednesday, but I will officially announce who those people are day of. So stay locked in, stay tuned, have those post notifications ready to go. And we'll keep cooking. Shout out to everyone always tapping in. And shout out to SDS, man. It's funny. It's funny watching the YouTube chat on the 49ers channel when you guys drop in all the SDS, man. It definitely brings a smile to my face to see everyone repping SDS. Always good. Always fun to see. Appreciate you guys as always. And I promise you, 49ers are going to get better after this week. And I'm looking forward to it. Appreciate you guys. I'm out. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to